Get 15% off the Fullest entire product line with code the Fullest Podcast at checkout. One of the main ingredients in our product line, saffron, has been proven over and over again in clinical double-blind placebo trials to be an effective form of treatment for depression, anxiety, and ADHD. Saffron has been used by many cultures for thousands of years for these purposes, and now the research is here to finally back it up, proving that plant medicines and ancient healing practices can actually be an effective alternative to pharmaceuticals. From caffeine-free latte powders to saffron baths and capsules, there's something for any modern woman looking for ancient healing. Again, that's code the Fullest Podcast at checkout for 15% off. I hope you enjoy your new daily saffron ritual. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Fullest Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Bostwick, and today's guest is Jen Bogan, the founder of Bluejay Bikes, sustainable and fashionable e-bike. The brand is showing 100% growth year after year. She's a graduate of UCLA and Harvard Business School with an incredible background in the fashion and beauty industry, working for fast-paced companies and helping them achieve explosive growth. After the birth of her 2 children, she completely transformed her direction and career and now makes the chicest e-bikes on the market with a large celebrity following, counting Kourtney Kardashian, Gwyneth Paltrow, Melissa McCarthy, and more as fans. And she used her customer-centric lens to design the e-bikes that didn't yet exist, which are beautiful, powerful, and easy to maintain. Jen, you totally converted me. And I'm just so excited to have you on because before meeting you, before going on a ride and actually getting on a Bluejay bike, I was not into e-bikes at all. And I just absolutely loved my experience. I love our bikes. And I'm just really excited to share about Bluejay with our audience because I think, just meeting you and understanding the difference between what you've created and what's out there and why I might have an aversion to the other ones, it makes total sense. And so I'm just excited to kind of have this conversation for so many reasons because not only do I love your product, but just being a woman founder, being someone who decided to leave her career and do a total shift, having children, staying in business, all of those things are things that I'm interested in and so excited to chat with you about. So I guess maybe where we can get started today is transitioning from those brands that you worked with. I know Guilt was one of them, and these are really big brands that you were with. And obviously you have a lot of experience that you came out with that you then felt you could take a risk on yourself, but still taking a risk, having 2 kids, and this is a self-funded company. It's such a big deal. And also something that, you weren't necessarily in the bike industry, right? A completely new industry. So tell us about what that decision was like for you and how you kind of leveraged your background and, took that risk and how it also maybe helped you as a mother in some ways, obviously having your own thing and how it hasn't maybe supported being a mom in some ways too, just because, being an entrepreneur means 24/7. So yeah, lots of questions, but maybe just a little bit of history about that.
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Nikki, for having me on here and for sort of telling my story so beautifully in a nutshell. That was a great summary of the journey that I've been on. And it was really fun meeting you back at our event in October. And I'm so glad that I've introduced you to e-bikes and that you're really enjoying it because that's exactly kind of my passion and what drives me and why I'm doing everything that I'm doing. But yes, I'm happy to share a little about kind of how did I get here, because I certainly never envisioned myself in the bike industry or e-bike industry, since I wasn't even aware of what that was, and had spent most of my career in fashion at Gelt and at Bloomingdale's, and then later in beauty at Sephora within a division called Kendo Group, where we were launching brands for Sephora and other and creating beauty brands that we were launching all over the world, founder-based beauty brands. And that's where I feel also working closely with LVMH executives that were brand builders years. And it was such a learning experience for me. But at the same time, and that was when I had 2 young kids in my life. So it was funny. I was just talking to someone who worked for me at that time, and she was like, "Oh my gosh, you just had Adrian, and she just had a baby." And she's like, "I can't imagine traveling all over the world like you did." And I was like, I can't believe it. I mean, but it was an exciting time, and that was kind of that fast-paced environment. And I think when I first had kids, I didn't want to really admit that, hey, my life needs to change. I can't have it all. I can't do it this way and still be fully present at home and giving everything when you're giving so much to just your career. And so at that point I said, I have to kind of take a step back. And my kids were 2 and 4 at the time, and reassess. And I felt that I had had so many good experiences of being at a company right at this explosive time of growth, like back during the early days of Guilt, and then seeing this explosive growth we had in all these different brands we were working on. And so I also was seeing the evolution of social media and how that was changing the landscape in terms of advertising and marketing. And I felt oftentimes I was the youngest exec in the room trying to explain, that this was coming and that we really needed to market to younger people in a different way than what we were used to seeing TV commercials and things like that. And so I felt like, gosh, I have always been, my dream has always been to have my own company. And I always knew that even from before business school. But my thought had been, I need to get the experience first. I need to really understand, I had been a strategy consultant, and I also wanted and I had been a buyer, I've been a marketer. And so I had worked with all cross-functional types of teams. And so I felt like, hey, I'm ready to take that leap. I feel prepared to start my own company. So yes, that's scary, as you said, to self-fund. I think also because I had been a part of these early stage companies and then the roles I was in, I felt I had the unique privilege of making a lot of board decks. And it was always about having to like show the story to investors. And I felt like sometimes we were spending too much time on the board decks and not enough time on the customers or whatever it was that we were supposed to be doing. And so it was, for me, when I was thinking about the self-funding versus taking on financing, it was really about control and not wanting to have to spend time answering questions and just feeling like, my co-founder is my husband because everything is joint, and just feeling like, hey, I feel confident. I feel like this is the right time, and I just need a product and an idea, because I think I know the type of company I would like to build, and I can talk a little more about that later. But culture was at the core of the type of company I wanted to build. And this is pre-COVID. So, but I didn't, want to have other people experience the same thing I did of when you have a really, really young child, being away in the office all day. And I, was thinking beyond beauty products. And I thought, I'm just going to take this time out. We had moved from San Francisco to Marin County, and I had not lived in the suburbs since high school. And it was just a change of pace. And I just said, okay, I'm just going to take some time. I'm not going to look for anything. I want to just be with my kids and figure out the next steps. I always kind of joke a little bit. Then I spent 6 months doing that and said, oh, I got to come up with a business idea real quick. And knew that ultimately long term, like I wanted to create an environment where I could still have a career. I feel like I had a lot to do and to give still. I felt early in my career. I feel blessed to have the education that I've had, and I feel like the need to do something with that is definitely a driving force. And so I, started, it just sort of happened naturally that I was thinking beyond just, beauty, because I'm like, everybody knows kind of that formula. Are there other industries where, I could really bring a lifestyle, a product to life? And I really want to create a lifestyle brand. And that's kind of like the overarching umbrella. And so when I rode an e-bike for the first time, which was here in Marin, and I'd seen people on them dropping off kids at school, and I was kind of like, what is this? What's going on here? And then actually my husband told me how expensive they were, and I was like, oh, forget that, a bike. And so it kind of went, a few months went by. But then finally, I don't know if we were bored one day, but I said, okay, let's go try it. And my husband was like, all right, let's go, and we went over to the local e-bike shop, and they have this hill. And I think the second I rode the bike up the hill, a light bulb just went off, because it's like, there's this endorphin rush of riding a bike. It's a dopamine booster. It's been proven in studies, and it also, there's also like a nostalgic effect to it. I think for a lot of people who, as kids, you're first kind of like, I'm getting away from my parents. Yeah, freedom type of thing is like riding your bike and going with your friends somewhere. And it's kind of just a real special magic. But there's also a lot of reasons why we don't do it. I mean, namely, because we have our cars, and that's a lot easier usually. And there's a whole lot of excuses. And so I just saw something where, I live in a very hilly area, and I saw something where, oh my God, I can just ride this thing right up a hill. I could be carrying stuff. And it's like this magic of riding a bike can come back, but it's now practical. And so I thought, oh my God, why doesn't everybody have one? This is kind of crazy. Like, you'd think like this must have been invented like really recently. And I start doing some research. I'm just curious. And it's this technology's been around, and actually it's taken off in Europe. And it's like, they're like leap years ahead, and it's actually completely taken over the market. And it's very, very nascent here in the US. And the reason I'm finding out about it is because I happen to move to a town that's very bike passionate, and there's biking everywhere. So it was like all around me. And so so I just started to do some more research, and I started to, test ride all the different bikes on the market. And I thought, oh my gosh, like nobody was approaching it the way I was trained my entire career. How you approach a customer first, customer centric. I love how you said that, because everything I do, my experience in visiting bike shops it was very kind of an experience geared towards maybe an expert in that area, and you felt a little not welcomed, let's say, if you didn't know a ton about the mechanics or things like that, or the sport. And so I felt that this product was sort of trapped and not really, able to let the true audience see it.
I love what you touched on with the bike and the magic of a bike and why we don't do it, because I had, that was my experience. I loved riding a bike. I loved the freedom of it when I was younger. Obviously, I would use it all the time, like you said. I mean, I'll never forget, on my 16th birthday, I actually got a bike instead of a car. And I ended up getting a car shortly after. I just wasn't like on schedule, with all the permits. But I used that bike everywhere. And like in college, I used it all around college. I went, because I lived in Oregon, and it was just like you said, just very bike centric. And I feel like in general, college towns are. And it's like you grow up and you kind of lose that. And more, we're just inside all the time. Like I say this a lot on our podcast, and I find myself inside a lot because I'm working inside, or you forget to go outside, especially if you don't live in a place like Marin, or a place where like the outdoors are really valued. Obviously, we all value the outdoors, but we forget, we get bogged down. We go to gyms, like we go to workout classes indoors. And unless you live in a place where, luckily I live right by the beach or somewhere like that, you kind of just stay indoors, and you don't get the amazing benefits of being outside, getting the sun on your skin, having the wind. Truly, I mean, getting into like, the ancient rituals and the woo-woo stuff, like I'm all about that. The wind is giving your body information, like all of the elements outside are giving the body information. When you touched on this aspect of, I want to build my own company. Yes, I want my own time as a mother. And I want to build a company where other mothers and other people don't have to be away from their kids all the time, like you did. And I completely agree. I think a lot of building a brand, when you're setting out to build an actual brand, it's more of the culture and the lifestyle, not the product. And then the product is like after, obviously, and it is customer centric and you want to solve this problem. But I think from the beginning, it's like, what is it that I want to inspire in people? And what you're inspiring is getting people outside, getting people to remember that feeling of the magic, the endorphin rush and all that. So I'm really excited because I am that person that's like, oh, I don't want to go up the hill. I don't want to go.
Exactly.
You completely transformed that for me. I mean, my husband and I had this like ongoing joke only on his part that I didn't know how to ride a bike, but I'm like, no, I know how to ride a bike. I just haven't, done it in a really long time. And so for me specifically, it was really a beautiful, beautiful experience. Your store is so amazing in Newport. If anyone's ever visiting, or if you live down here, obviously we have a lot of people down here just because we're based here that listen. But I think, yeah, just getting into the fact that your e-bike is really different than the other e-bikes on the market. So can you tell us more about that? Not only is it so beautiful and offers like really great features, but it is like really distinct. So tell us more about that process.
So I think, my goal, I didn't invent like all the joy of bike riding, but for all the reasons you said, we just don't do it. And there's just a lot of reasons not to. And I think when I had my prototype here, because my methodology has always been, especially because it's my own money, it's like we start small. We build a prototype, get some of my friends to test it, ride them around, and build from there there's a lot of research and things leading up to going into production. And even once I had my samples, then I'll have a small amount that we can ride around and test and see. And so things would happen where, here's the thing, I'm not a cyclist, and I'm also, my friends know I'm not like the most like, hey, let's get up at 5 a.m. and go do whatever. So for me, when it came to dropping the kids off at school, part of the reason I saw the whole beauty here is because it's so much easier. I can kind of cruise right up to the front with the kids at drop off and don't have to get backed up in the line. And it's really convenient. But I can tell you, on a cold day and I hadn't had my coffee yet. And I was like, I really thought to myself one day, I got to just take the car because I got to put the coffee in the coffee holder and that's in the car. And I thought, that if then the bike needs to have a coffee holder, obviously, and that can't be an excuse next time. And so it's stuff like that. It's like us riding, and now it's like the broader team. And so it really, once again, comes from customer centric. And I designed this bike for, I think there's a much bigger group of people out there that would go out and ride a bike and would do it. And if, some of these negatives that people see, or just, it's not negative, it's just you're too busy. And so if some of these things that you're worried about, oh my gosh, I have to get to the next place. I don't have time to ride a bike. I have to take the car. And that was me every single day. And next thing you know, I'm sitting in this box, to and from work. And then I go, and you feel like you're just in this like cycle. And the second like you said, you're on the bike, it's not just the pedaling, which somehow releases endorphins, but you're hearing the birds, you're wind in your face, wind in your hair. I have customers that text me like, literally, I'm smelling the roses, and it's like the smells that you smell, and especially seeing more, and people smile at you, especially if you're taking a bike path. I think of all the road rage when you're in a car, and then how your commute could be totally different because 5 different people smiled at you, and you saw mom walking in a stroller and some cute dogs, and like it's just a totally different, it's like can change your whole outlook. And the fact that you could just build this into your daily routine, these like little endorphin boosting moments, I thought this is really applicable to a much broader group than the very small group of people that are willing to like put on the cycling gear and like get on the road with all the cars and like go up some crazy hill. That's a unique group, and I think that that's amazing. That's not me, and that's not a lot of my friends. So I wanted to make sure that people could sort of enjoy all the benefits when you have this technology. And the bike is the most efficient form of transportation. Some other things that really fascinated me about when I really started researching is that if you look at any sort of mechanical or transportation object and you were to look at it in 1890, to see something that looks almost the same is absolutely amazing. They didn't have cars then. So it's like, it's something where this has really stood the test of time. And when I went to Europe to do research, and I said, I'm going to start an e-bike company in America. And they're like, everybody laughed at me. It was like, ha ha ha, you're never going to get Americans to ride bikes. They're too obsessed with their cars. You're never going to do it. And I was like, okay, well, that's great. I thrive on that type of a challenge. And I think, Americans would do it if this, that, and the other box were checked. So that was my bet. And seeing how it just made so much sense from not only just you could maybe, if you have parking problems. And by the way, a lot of my customers are riding these miles and miles per day. But for me, even just going a short trip, like a mile, it's nice because I don't have to deal with the parking lot and I don't have to deal with like all this other stuff. And so for me, I think that most bike companies approach it from starting with like whatever they're specialized in terms of bikes, whether it's mountain bikes or road bikes, and then let's put a motor on it. And I think that there are certain sport-focused specialties that are doing really amazing bikes. And I took a lot of cues from e-mountain bikes and things like that. Like, for example, the type of brakes that they're using are hydraulic disc brakes, and those are as strong. Those are what cars use. Those are what high-end mountain bikes use. I was shocked to find when I was test riding that most e-bikes were not using these brakes. They were using just regular old brakes you put on a cruiser bike, or mechanical disc brakes at best. And for me, test riding, you're cruising up a hill and you're breezing up, which is just such an amazing feeling. But once you get to the top of that hill, you might have to go down, and that's where it could be really scary. And I heard a lot of stories of people going down, and once you're going down a hill, you start going really fast, 30 miles an hour. I mean, really fast. And if your brakes aren't working, like, that's no bueno. And so I, for example, when I manufacture in Taiwan, and that's where most of the high-end bikes in the world are made, and it's a small community, which I like. When I was test riding these bikes, and I insisted on hydraulic disc brakes as part of the spec from the get-go, we got in a car because where we were was pretty flat, and they drove me to like the highest hill in Taiwan, and loaded me up with a bunch of water bottles on the back and a huge boulder rock on the front. And I rode up that hill. And then I remember riding down and being like, oh my gosh, if this company's not going to go very far if this doesn't work. If this isn't safe, at least I test rode it first. And the bike handled it. It gave me a lot of confidence. So, and after having test ridden so many bikes that I know would not have been able to, I almost felt it was a bit of a mission that this was going to be there's no doubt that e-bikes were going to have a place, and they were going to be a growing market in the US. They just make too much sense from an eco perspective, and I haven't even touched on that. But anything reducing cars is music to any city planner's ears. So there's going to be incentives, and as more and more on the road, and people become more confident with the concept and even understand what it is, because that's a big part. We're really in the early days here in the US. And so I knew that there was going to be a place, and I just thought, first of all, there needs to be like a beautiful bike like you would want to see European style. All the ones I was looking at look like motorcycles, or look like somehow are missing this one category of like beautiful kind of commuter bikes, but also had to be designed with the idea that this was going up and down hills. So the geometry of the Bluejay, everything is designed with this intent. It's not just like, let's slap a motor on a regular bike, which is of course how I built the first prototype, but the handlebars are a little wider because that adds more stability. There's all these little thoughts that are in there that, because this was designed with this specific rider and intent and customer in mind. And so I think that's really what sets Bluejay apart. I focused on quality parts all along the way, from our Shimano gearing, which is the best of the best. Everybody in the bike industry knows that, to our Tektro brakes. And it was funny because I was told in our Newport store, a 13-year-old came in yesterday and was looking at our sport model, and basically told his mom we were the real deal because he was calling out all of our amazing parts, and he knew his stuff and I was like, he knows his stuff, and how we did our motor and how it's different. You can definitely buy a cheaper e-bike, but you don't always buy the cheapest car you can get, and there's reasons for that.
Yeah.
And this is a lot of value packed in for the lowest price that I could get it to. And I think you're getting a total package with racks that are built for putting kid seats on and putting loads on in both the front and the back, and things like that, where I'm borrowing ideas from the cargo bikes, I'm borrowing ideas from mountain bikes, I'm borrowing ideas from your regular road cruisers. And so all of that, I think, it's just the approach. And you're not seeing a lot of, I would say, female founded or anybody founded, bike companies, or e-bike companies. It's not like the easiest thing to just, pick up and do.
Hi, everyone. I want to tell you about Jen, who I recently met. She's the founder of Bluejay Bikes, and I met her for a ride along, and I was so impressed with the company. They fully won me over, and my husband and I, who were not previously sold on e-bikes at all, decided to get a set for our family. These e-bikes are not only gorgeous with more color combinations than any other e-bike on the market, but they also have top-of-the-line tech and safety features. Bluejay is design obsessed and strives to fit every lifestyle, offering add-on options like beautiful woven baskets, children's seats, and coffee cup holders. We have the children's seat add-on as well as a trailer ride for my 4-year-old son Truth to ride on behind us. I love that it gives our family the opportunity to be outside together without the kids tiring out. I also love the fact that it's a pedal assist bike rather than having a full throttle that I saw was a problem with other e-bikes because they were too fast and dangerous. With a Bluejay bike, it's easier than ever to choose a bike instead of a car, get fresh air, and create effortless and fun routines and moments that inspire you. Life is short, enjoy the ride. If you've ever considered purchasing an e-bike, now's the time. We're offering our listeners 10% off their Bluejay order with free shipping and assembly using our exclusive code Nikki10. Hey everyone, I am so excited to share with you a company that I've admired for so long called Shepherd's Dream. They've been devoted to making the highest quality all-natural bedding on earth, made from eco wool, organic cotton, and responsibly sourced latex. The reason I love their heirloom quality mattresses so much is because not only are they free of anything harmful, chemical, or synthetic, but they actually offer all wool, 100% wool mattresses that don't have any springs in them. And from some of my interviews in the past, I've actually learned that some of these springs can be conducting energy along with different telephone poles, wires, cell phone towers, things like that. So if you really want the most restful sleep that also is not conducting any energy in terms of EMFs, this is the mattress to go for, to have for your family so that you're wrapped in pure, safe, healthy, luxurious comfort that's going to last for years. Discover the practical magic of mattresses and bedding that honor you and the earth. For 10% off your Shepherd's Dream order, use code TheFullest at checkout. So what drove you? It was like that challenge that inspired you to, create it. I'm assuming is like really what you're saying. And I love that. It's like you aren't going to buy the cheapest car. You're going to buy the car that you think has the most value packed in for what you get. And it's beautiful and all the things, right? And I also, to that 13-year-old's point that they were asking their parents about too and sharing. Another thing for a parent is the fact that, can you share about how the throttle versus like a pedal assist? Because I think it's an important distinction. Obviously, like there are different e-bikes that have the various ones, but I think that also adds to the experience of it also still being a great workout, right? And safe.
Yes. When I actually had a throttle put on my first e-bike that I made, where we converted a cargo bike and put a motor on it, and with my local bike shop. And I really actually wanted the throttle because that seemed cool. And I would say about a year in, it started misfiring, and like it would just kind of like think you were pushing the throttle when you weren't, and it would shoot the bike forward. So I thought, oh, that's not good. And I started doing research into and talking with the motor company about throttles. And they were like, yeah, 95% of any accidents and problems are the throttle. And like, if you're going to have a throttle, then you really should be riding on, a road. And that's a different thing. And that's another thing. That's fine. But like, that's a whole set. So if we're talking about being on a bike path where you've got pedestrians and you've got dogs and you need to adhere to a certain speed limit, there's that element of it, so there was a fundamental, like, this actually can cause more defects. It kind of makes it too easy to accelerate, and especially if kids are doing this, and this has happened here in Marin recently, where, we've had some fatalities from this type of stuff. And so I'm definitely very passionate about giving other options than some of the like leading, brands, especially direct to consumer, that I think quite honestly, they're marketing bikes that really shouldn't be for, under 16 years old to kids. So it's just such a small niche. It's going to get more and more attention as more and more people are doing it, but I'm already kind of seeing it. And so I think having those safe alternatives, the thing with the pedal assist, and people, it's almost like you have to kind of try it to truly understand it. The pedaling with your feet, it's so intuitive, and your feet actually, I believe, can respond a lot quicker to something going on. And so not only are Bluejays just pedal assist, but there's something called a torque sensor in them. So let's say you put it up on level 5, which is the highest level you can go on a Bluejay. And so there's like 5 different levels of power. If you're pushing down the throttle and then all of a sudden there's a curve, let's say, coming up, and you see it a little bit too late, I mean, you're going to skid out. If you're on a Bluejay and you're on level 5 and you see that curve, the first thing you're going to do even before your hands would react is your foot's going to come off the pedal a bit. The second that it feels that you're pulling back, either braking with your hands or kind of just pulling back, like not pedaling as hard, it pulls back power. It starts to say, wait, okay. And there's e-bikes that have just a regular, you set it on level 5 and it's going to always give you level 5 no matter what. To me, that was more dangerous, because knowing how your body reacts and what can do quickest, having something that is taking what your feet are doing on the pedals is, in the industry, the safest way to configure it. And so that's always what Bluejay's trying to do.
That makes a lot of sense, because at first I was like, I don't know if I'm going to go on the highest, but it felt so safe and so intuitive for me. I mean, I'm really, really, really impressed with what you've created. And it kind of takes me to the next question, because I know that you have 2 different types. You have the Premier and the Sport. Can you share with us like a little bit about that? And is there another one on the way? Can you tell us? Because I want to know.
Ooh, this might be like very insider leaks off the press. But yeah, so I started with the one model, Premiere, which was really, I designed for myself, and to be honest. And then it was just like, okay, let's see how this is received. And it did so well that I decided, okay, I'm going to design a second model for the same purpose, which is like riding with the family. And our kids were small at the time, so we were hitching up the Burly Bee and putting them in the kid seat in the back and that type of stuff. And so then I designed the Sport for my husband, who has multiple bikes. He has a mountain bike, he has a road, he has all these, but this is his one that he likes to like, go to the market or ride somewhere with the kids with. And so with that, I was making something that had a little more off-road tire. He wants to go to the baseball field, wants to go gravel or whatever, and a bit higher motor power to thinking also about like a weight adjustment, and just a little more like of an SUV, where it's like on-road and off-road and things like that. And so to me, I'm thinking, okay, I have a mom bike and I have a dad bike. Well, I remember a few years ago where, with our kids vacationing in Carmel, and it was very hilly. And so the kids are like, where's our bikes, Mom? So I said, okay, I don't know about this. Like, let's see, And so I started to toy with the idea of a kid's electric bike. And, the first barrier is that to do it the way I want to, with all the features I want, I can't do it for the price point, that I would originally wanted to, because even though it's smaller, it's still all the same parts. And so, while I found a way to get the cost down significantly, it's, I was nervous because it's a lot to spend on a kid, and obviously kids are growing and all of that. So I thought through that a lot. So I think I was just like, okay, I'm going to order some samples. I talked about it with my manufacturing partners. We came up with it, and I said, just send me some samples and let's see how it goes. And it's like our lives have changed since we got those samples, because my children, who are now they're 8 and 10, they love riding bikes. We do have a hilly neighborhood, and it's like they are now even so much more willing to want to go and jump on the bike and do these long trips and family trips. I was astounded. And then a lot of parents of my children's friends were texting me and saying, what is this? How can I get it? And so I decided, okay, let's move forward on this. So we're doing a limited run that's going to come out in the back to school timeframe for this year of kids' bikes. And it's going to, it's like, we tested, there's not many other ones on the market in terms of like a legit bike. I've seen like a lot of little like scooter looking things and like little mini motorcycle looking things and stuff like that. But there's not like in terms of a true bike, but there's a few others and they're quite expensive. But we were riding them and testing them. And so everybody feels that this is just like a knock it out of the park. And we've got a way that we can adjust it. So if your kid grows, it can, grow with the kid, probably take over like 2 bike sizes, but then there are, at some point, yes, we're going to have different sizes going all the way up. So like I do everything at first, I don't do it huge. I do it small. I want to test. I want to learn. I don't want to overinvest in something that, where we might learn something down the road. So I always look at that like kind of close group as, people that are going to give me feedback and help us grow it. But there's a lot of excitement. So we are super, super excited. That's coming later this year. And to me, that's the dream, is that this is really a family concept. It's a family lifestyle brand. And so if your kids are young, then you can put them in the baby seat, or you can put them in the lightweight baby buggy or kid buggy. I mean, I had my kids in there at 6 and 8 even. Squish. Yeah. So you can do it. And then on up to the next stage of, and I would say really an 8-year-old is like the young age on this, just because I think that's the age that they can really be responsible, at least, from what I've observed. And I don't feel comfortable necessarily taking on younger. So it's really meant to be kind of like this 8 to, let's say 8 to early teen bike. And we'll see how it goes. But and then the next thing I would say, if you want to hear about it, accessories.
Too, because that's a huge part of like what I love that you offer.
So to me, it was, the accessories were kind of part of the initial idea, which was, I was looking at a bag to attach to my bike, and why couldn't I get a cute one? And, this just seemed like a real miss. And so we've really expanded our basket line, and we're going to continue to do that. We've obviously got the cell holders and the coffee holders and the drink holders and mini portable speakers and all kinds of fun stuff that we like to ride with. Even sometimes my husband's the one who introduces me to like new fun things. But I will say there's definitely a couple new categories that I've been wanting to get into that I just have not spent enough time on. I think my first focus was like get the kid stuff, get all the kid gear in order. But now I would say pet is a really big area for us in Newport, especially. We have a lot of people coming by with pets asking us about different carriers. And in the past, I just would, I would stick them in a basket, which is what, safely on the side. But I think there could be much more. It's top of my mind because I just got 2 new puppies. And so thinking about what it might need, we might need stuff that's a little more fur lined so that's something that we're looking into, that we're very excited about. And also, and it all comes from my lifestyle, what I'm doing, what am I doing and what am I observing? And one thing is we as a family are moving to Park City for a couple of years later this year, which is great because we're going to continue to build in this market. And that's just an amazing outdoor market, but it's definitely a little chilly there, I would say, and snowy, which I love, but I don't know why I can't ride a bike. So I'm definitely looking into some elements that might make it more comfortable to ride a bike in colder weather.
Snow tires, so you're not like icy going downhill. I'm so curious what you're going to come up with, but I love that you're informing a lot of the design and, all the research and development on your lifestyle, because that is, it's perfect. It's a family lifestyle brand. I love that. And now you have the dogs and they're going to be part of the research. It's such a beautiful and sweet story. And you definitely have that eye and that background and that drive and all of the elements that it takes to really go forward with something like this and build an awesome brand that's going to enhance so many other families' lives. And I think that's just so important, probably just like feels so good too, because it's a way of giving back. Like you were saying, you have so much to give, and that's part of entrepreneurship, I think, is that feeling of like, I do have something to share with the world that's going to really support other people on their journey and their lives. And I love that your whole family is part of it and that your husband is your co-founder and you guys have taken this risk together, and how exciting to go into a new market. And my husband is obsessed with Park City. I mean, we thought at one point like that was going to be where we would split our time. And so I am really curious what you're going to come up with with that move, because it's just going to develop and grow. And I just can't wait to watch the company continue to expand. And I love everything that you've created. And I really do believe that it's something that does enhance, even if you're not, someone who's married with kids, like it can enhance anyone's life. And so that's what's really cool about it too, is it's something that everyone can partake in, and even the animals. So that's really awesome.
I know. Yeah, no, thank you for having me on here. And it's so rewarding to hear you say that, because really it's hard, as it's like you have to have a drive. And, there are days where it's like you don't feel as motivated and you're tired. And I think that, for me, it's like being able to get other people to just have to share this lifestyle. And it's really just about finding those little moments in the day where you can break out of your whatever is you're in and kind of get some fresh air and just be connected to your surroundings. If more people can do that, I do think that is something that really helps with mental health and just overall happiness, and kind of just realizing like, hey, we get all in like our small, little like bubbles of whatever's going on, but like, hey, there's this huge world out there. There's a lot of stuff going on just in our own backyards, whether it's nature or what. And so to just get more people to just experience like what's right in front of them, especially if making it not removing the barriers and the reasons why people might not do it. And also, the more people out riding, then the safer it becomes. And the more we get, it's like a snowball effect where then we push for more bike paths and we push for more infrastructure to support this. And I think it becomes even more a bigger community and more of a movement. So thank you for having me on here to share my story.
Yeah, of course. I'm really, really looking forward to seeing how, Bluejay Bikes contributes to that. I agree. Like just that push for changing and adding more bike paths. And also just in general, like how can, obviously people can go on bluejaybikes.com and check out all of your offerings. But, you also mentioned that in the fall, you'll be coming out with like that limited edition. How can families who might be really interested in signing up for that or being like the first to know, how can they maybe be added to a wait list or do something so that they stay top of mind for you guys? So please share with us like how people can connect with you guys.
I think the best way is to follow us on our social channels at Bluejay Bikes, and then to sign up for our email list on bluejaybikes.com, because that is definitely, we very much value our community, and we go to them first with anything, whether it's offers, whether it's new products, whether it's to receive feedback. We're actually right now doing that and because a lot of what we want to do is, I mentioned coming from my lifestyle, but it's also coming from what we're hearing the community wants. And that's what we want, is more people telling us how they're using their bikes, what they're doing, so we can just kind of further grow that. So definitely, please, please, please follow us, sign up for our email, and you will be the first to know.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. And yeah, also if you're in Orange County, definitely visit their store. It's so cute. And I noticed that you can also rent bikes now. Is that right? Or do a ride?
Oh, yes. And if you're in Orange County, you can come by the store for sure. We can rent bikes, and we have demos available. You can just come by and take a test ride. We have a really fun little route, and we're going to be partnering with some of our local neighbors to come up with some fun routes so we can have little perks along the way. So it's such a great community. There's so many fun brands. Like, I couldn't believe in Lido. It's like every single one of my favorite brands. So we just feel that the spot that we're in is just great from the community and everybody that we're seeing around. So yes, come visit us, and I'd love for you to meet the team.
Awesome. Thanks, Jen.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me.